Hello, everybody. I'm Laura Peterson. I'm your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio with you every Sunday. And I'm from Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So lots of great stuff to go over with you today. And first of all, starting out with the stats in regards to what's happening there. Basically, single-family homes last week were 555 sold, and that was from it's the week of July 28th to August 3rd. And so that was up from 421 the week before, which, of course, end of the month, so that means more sales. The median price of a single-family home is $450,000, which went up a little bit over with that number of houses that sold, and the inventory decreased by 72 at 7167. So this is the first week that we've seen any kind of a decrease in inventory, which is good, which keeps it just more as a stable market and everything in regards to what's going on. Okay, so of those 555 homes, there were 35 of them under 250, 32 between 250 and 300, 136 between 300 and 400, 132 between 400 and 500, 186 between 500 and a million, and 34 over a million. So really, if you're under 300,000, that was a total of 67 actually. Not a whole lot in regards to what's going on in that price point. Everything's quite a bit higher. So if you're looking at the months of inventory overall, it's at 2.98. Under 250, it's at 2.46, 2.32, 250 to 300. Sticking right there, 2.34, 300 to 400. Then we go to 2.6 between 400 and 500, 3.44, 500 to a million, and then over a million is at 5.64. When we're looking at the list to ask price ratio, we're at 96.88 overall, 89.46 under 250. Obviously need a little bit of work there. 96.17, 250 to 300. Then we're at 98.23, 98.1, 98.02, and 92.94. So basically, when we're in those price points where there is not that many houses selling, which you would think it would be the exact opposite, right? That they would be closer to asking price. But it's, again, the lower end and the higher end are always where the most negotiation can happen. And so kind of in the middle where everybody's at, those are much closer to asking price, always has been and continues to be right now. So that's always good to know and good to be aware of for sure. When you're looking at the condos, townhomes, and villas, there were 126 that sold last week, and that's up from 116, not a huge increase for the end of the month. And that inventory also decreased, but only by 3, and that's at 3574 when you're looking at everything overall. So the breakdown of that, obviously, there's a lot more of those that are under the 250 range. So of the 126, 45 of them were under 250, 16 between 250 and 300, 38 between 300 and 400, 29 between 400 and 500, 5 between 500 and a million, and 1 over a million. So basically, their inventory is quite a bit higher and in a normal range. They're at 6.55 overall, 6.3 under 250, 7.92 between 250 and 300, 5.95 between 300 and 400. This is months of inventory, by the way. Between 400 and 500, it's at 4.66, and 500 to a million, 25.46, based on the number of houses, condos that are for sale versus what sold. There were 3 that sold, 331 on the market right now. Over a million, only one of them sold, but there's only 22 on the market, so there's only 5 months of inventory. So when you're looking at the list to ask price ratio, overall it's at 97.42. It was 98 something for single family homes, so a little bit less. Under 250, it's at 95.31, 98.65. We go up to between 250 and 300, then we're at 97.88, 97.82, 98.5, and 98.18 over a million. So that one that was over a million, it actually was listed at 1.1 and it sold for 1.080 and only got a $20,000 price reduction. So that's pretty good. So basically, this shows once again that our market is stable. Actually, with the inventory decreasing, I think that's a great thing that's going on, because with that, what that's going to show us then is maybe we can have a little bit of a stabilization when the inventory was increasing and all of that. Then it could be that maybe prices would fall. It's only 1 week, so we'll have to keep our eyes on it. It's only 100, but it only went up by 100 every week, and it's been going up 100 every week for basically about the last couple of years. And we needed that because we were less than a month of inventory. And so it was such a crazy market back then that we were looking for something more normal. And I think we're pretty much there at that normal market. The prices are holding their own and all of that kind of good stuff. So it's just good thing to know. And the other good news that's going on right now that you may have heard a little bit in the news is that the interest rates have fallen to the lowest level in over a year. The average rate on a 30-year mortgage fell to 6.47 from 6.73 the week before, and costs on a 15-year fixed-rate mortgage fell to 5.63 from 5.99 last week. So if you can pay off your home in 15 years, obviously you're going to get a much better deal on your mortgage as well. So that's something that you definitely want to look at. And so that gives an affordability boost for all of those home buyers out there. So that might be something to look at. And basically that's going to be something that we want to see. Now, the 23-year high in October of last year was at 7.79. So the fact that we're at 6.47 now is obviously good news and something that everybody wants to look forward to. Now, you might want to consider it and look at it and that kind of thing. There are some lenders that will go ahead and refinance for you for no money. If the rates go down, that's something that our preferred lender offers. So you really, if the rates are even higher now than what they're going to be, 6 months from now or a year from now or whatever, it kind of gives you additional peace of mind, right? Because you can go ahead and know that your rate is going to be, that you're going to be where you're at right now. But long term, you're going to be able to go down even further if that's something that you want to do. So lots of great things going on out there in real estate in making things happen. And, we just love all of that. So the thing that I think is best is that when we're looking at things, there is an article that came out this week that said that Florida's affordability is actually, doing better and that kind of thing. This article is saying that Floridians' medium home prices rose 40%, but income's only 12%. So when they're talking about that, they're looking at between years 20 and 2022, because the properties have not increased 40% in the last year. They have pretty much stayed the same. Now, the big thing that happened was that between 2020 and 2022, the home prices did increase by 40%, but then they have just stayed where they're at. And I know there's so many people that have said, oh, they're going to fall, they're going to fall. And actually, I don't believe that that's going to happen. There's too many people that are out there in the market that can afford it, and the people that want to sell are able to sell. And so with that, there's not a lot of discounts that are being made. The biggest thing that's happened is that the sellers that wanted to get X amount of money for their home and were higher than other places in the neighborhood and other places on the market, then what happened with them is that they're doing a lot of price reductions and that kind of stuff and sitting on the market because they were unrealistic in regards to their pricing to begin with. But for the most part, the sellers that are right on par are having no trouble selling their homes at all. So in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we'll see you after the break. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Laura Peterson from Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and this is Central Florida Real Estate Radio. In order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So in continuing on, one of the things that I was looking at and I was starting to talk about in the last segment was in regards to the affordability. And I found this very interesting because basically, what they're saying is that the affordability index is based on the price of the house versus the amount of income and everything that everybody is getting. And they're saying that for the average person that you would normally pay 3 times the amount of your income, for a house. And what I found is that that's not necessarily, true. That might be the rule of thumb that they're using in this article or what they're trying to accomplish here and all that kind of good stuff. But basically, the bottom line is that affordability when it comes to your monthly payment is something that is pretty much regulated by the government or whoever is giving you a loan. They want to make sure that your ratios are not out of whack. And so they definitely have rules on that in regards to making sure that everything is, continuing to be the same. So I haven't really found it to be so much in regards to the amount of the value of the house, but it comes down to, for most people, the amount of that monthly payment is really what it comes down to. And, obviously there is an affordability factor, and you might say, well, how come, people are buying at that ratio and why would they do that and that kind of thing. And one of the reasons is because, there are people that are moving here from other parts of the country, and their houses might be more expensive than what they are here. And when they're coming from that, they might, be selling their house there. And I've had several people that have moved here from out of the area, and they sold their house, for example, in New York for $1 million, and then they came here and they bought 3 or 4 houses here. One of them for them to live in, and then one of them, and then several other ones to rent out. And so basically, when that's happening, then that obviously puts more money in our economy and everything as well when they're doing that. But they're able to pay cash for their all of their houses, and maybe they would take out a loan on a couple of them and stuff. But for the most part, they're paying cash for them. So they've got quite a bit of equity that they had there. And then there's also cash outs going on from within Florida, people who are selling bigger homes with ample equity that they can leverage the cash for a smaller or similar sized home and everything. So that's another thing that's going on. They're at the time that they were doing this, because I think that this is only going to 2022, that they were saying that there are fewer available homes, keeping prices high. So owners with low interest rates are reluctant to sell, which limits listings and keeps prices high. Now, that's not exactly true, because I just talked about how the inventory is up significantly from 2022. I mean, it's doubled. I think it's probably about tripled from where it was in 2022. The prices have not changed, but the inventory has changed. If you look at any of the stats, that's what you're going to find. But what we have in regards to the inventory right now, at least in the single family homes, is still not even a normal market. A normal market is between 4 and 6 months. So we're in the 3 months of inventory. So it gives you some choices, but it's still, less than a normal market. Now in the condo market, however, there are more condos for sale. And like I was saying, between, I think it was 500 and a million, based on the number of properties that sold last week, there's like 25 months of inventory. So obviously it's more of a buyer's market there in the condos. And the condos have had kind of a rough go of it. Any of them that are over, I believe it's 4 stories, that they've had, a rough go of it. And as a result of the Surfside condo collapse that happened a few years ago, there are a lot more regulations in regards to the condos, of a lot of of inspections that they need to do, and there was some deferred maintenance on many of them, and so that came to light, and so there were a lot of extra fees that came into effect for condos, and so there's a lot of people that are selling them, for that reason. I was talking to somebody last week that actually owns a property in South Beach, and it's a condo, and I was asking them, like how they're doing on that, and they were telling me that their monthly fee is like $1,000 and I said, well, how much are you getting for rent? And they're getting $6,000 for rent. So theoretically, the way that $1,000 works, it really, in the big scheme of things, they've still got a really good positive cash flow on that unit. And it was actually built in 2004. And as a result of that, it doesn't have any of the things that maybe some of those buildings that were built in the 70s and 80s do. It didn't have the deferred maintenance going on, and the board is pretty much on top of it. So that might be a better unit to look at. And then I was talking to another lady last week, and she owns a property in a condo in Ormond Beach, and her property is quite a bit older, and she's on the board now, and she's working through it. And they actually are, I forget what the reason is, but there's some reason why they're actually going to be moving everybody out of the buildings for 2 weeks. I think it's something to do with the electrical or the plumbing, that they're going to be redoing all that, and they're not going to have water or electric for 2 weeks in the unit. So everybody has to move out for a couple of weeks. And she said, they just had a $10,000 special assessment because of some of the repairs that they've had, and they're getting through it, but it's taking them a while to do it. And, some of the people in the building just don't want to pay those special assessments, so they're just dumping the units. And so there might, if it's something that you might want to pick up a good unit, like that this might be the time for you to do something like that. There might be some deals out there, or there are some deals out there in some of the condos that people have had special assessments. They didn't want to take care of it, and they just wanted to cut and run. And so there might be those kinds of things, that are out there. But I was talking about the fewer homes being available is where this all started. And basically, so that is keeping prices high. And what's happening now is that we don't have a ton of people that we're necessarily putting them on the market. The number of properties that are selling on a weekly basis is down probably about 40 to 50%, depending on what week you're looking at. But basically, the bottom line is, so the number of properties is down, but the number of properties on the market hasn't reflected it to the point where anything is falling. And so that's staying, pretty good when it comes to that. And then there has been limited wage growth from 2020 to 2022. And while companies have been paying more, the Fed aims to control inflation, so rapid wage growth isn't anticipated. Rapid wage growth could fuel inflation, and so that's something that we obviously want to kind of avoid. And then beyond earned income, retirees often rely more on passive income from retirement accounts, Social Security, or investment dividends for living expenses. And younger people may have inherited or acquired wealth. As more wealth moves to Florida, the gap between what's earned income and local cost of living becomes more apparent in the data and that kind of thing. So those are things that they're talking about, that the landscape is changing quickly, but basically, it's changing, but it's not changing. It changed a lot between 2020 and 2022. And now we're just kind of, catching up to that 40% growth. So if that growth happened between 2020 and 2022 of 40%, and now we're staying stagnant, we're not going down, but we're kind of staying stagnant. But actually we did have a 4.6% increase over the last year. So we're not staying exactly stagnant, but we're staying pretty consistent. And I think that that's a good thing for everybody. It gives consistency. It gives people, certainty in the knowing what's out there and what they can get and everything that goes along with that. So in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we'll see you after the break. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Laura Peterson, your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So I wanted to talk to you today, buyers, tips for finding the right house. The best way to start a home search is by keeping a list of the essentials and the deal breakers, and consider your lifestyle, pets, location needs, and necessary features, among other things. And you may have heard that there was a lawsuit that happened with the National Association of Realtors and many real estate companies and all that kind of stuff were involved in. And it was a big class action lawsuit. And so the results of that actually are going into effect now, August 17th. So here we are just about a week away from that. But what's going to happen at that point in time is that just like the sellers have been represented for years, where you would have an agreement with a realtor that you would go under contract with them for them to sell your house, now it's going to be required that it's for buyers. So it's really business as usual for us. We really have always done this. And one of the things that we always do when we're meeting with the buyers, first of all, is we do come up with that list of must-haves and deal breakers and what's most important to you in your home search and what needs to happen in order for that to happen and all of that kind of good stuff. And, it's like when you're looking to buy a house, I mean, many times people are just thinking, I just want to have 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, or 4 bedrooms, or, whatever the case may be. I want to make sure that I have a pool. I want to make sure that the yard is fenced, and the list goes on and on and on. But basically, a lot of times people don't get into the nitty gritty details of what's really important to them. And I think that that's really, to me, one of the most important things that we talk to buyers about when we're first meeting with them and everything is finding out really what the needs are. And the most interesting thing is when you're sitting down with a couple and one person wants one thing and the other one wants another, and they really didn't have an idea because they didn't talk about that. They said, hey, let's buy a house, but they weren't thinking forward in regards to what they were really looking for in that house and what was important to them. And because they didn't have it in their apartment right now, they weren't thinking, well, this is what we want to have in the future, So basically, when it comes down to it, it really makes sense to really think about these things and really look at it, because buying a house is one of the biggest decisions that people make in their lives, and it's somewhat scary unless you're actually very certain that you're not making a mistake. And I think that that's what the biggest thing is that people are concerned that they're making a mistake. And so we do everything that we can to make sure that we know what you're looking for so that you don't make that mistake. And I know that a few years ago, when I was just talking in the last segment between 2020 and 2022, and the market was going crazy and there wasn't any inventory and prices were, wacko and everything, in regards to you could just put a house on the market, whatever you wanted to charge for it, and it would go pretty quickly in days, hours, whatever. But basically, today houses can still go in days if you price them properly and you do the right marketing for them. So it's still possible. But basically, back in the day when all of that was going on, the studies came out after that, like in 2023 and 2023, I think is when I read it, that they said that 80% of the people that bought the houses at that point in time were not happy with their home purchase because they felt like they settled for something, like they were just in such a hurry and they felt the frenzy and they felt like they had to do it. And if they didn't do it, they were going to miss out. So we had a lot of that FOMO going on, that fear of missing out. And basically the bottom line is that I don't ever want anybody to feel that way. And I never had anyone that I worked with that had that feeling, that they would have told me. And we do have a buyback guarantee. So they definitely would have told me, because we would have bought their house back or sold it for free if they had that feeling. So as a result of that, I really do my homework and make sure that they're finding that house that matches their criteria and what they're looking for and what they need and all of that. And that's what we continue to do. And so as a result of doing that, then we don't end up with those kinds of mistakes. And in this market, you might say, well, you're not going to be as prone to that because there are more choices and it's not as, quick. It doesn't have to be as quick as it, as it was back then, that you have to make a decision. But it always happens that you do have to make a decision fairly quickly, because, the chances are, if you like something and, somebody else is going to like it too. And the funny thing is that people tell me all the time, they're like, if I decide that I like that house, then it's sure enough that somebody else is going to like it too. And there wasn't any activity on it for 4 months. And then all of a sudden there's a lot of activity on it and there's multiple offers and all of this stuff going on. And they're like, I just really can't believe it. But that's how it works. It's like, that you're excited about it. Sure enough, that reticular activator, I think is what they call it. It's like you got yours going and you spread the word to everybody else and they want that same house that you do. But basically what I was, talking about here is that you definitely want to make sure that you've got those essentials and those deal breakers of what you're looking for in a house. And that's going to change. A lot of buyers, it can change. And the reason that it changes is because when you say, hey, I want to make sure that, like I've had a lot of people saying, I don't want to buy a house that doesn't have a fenced in backyard. Okay. And I'm thinking, okay, now do you want a house that doesn't have that has that fenced already? Or are you okay with a house that you can put a fence there? And most of the time they're okay with a house that you can put a fence. I mean, of course, they would prefer that the fence was already there. But if it's not the end of the world because you can put one up. They wouldn't want to buy a house that you couldn't put a fence, which there are some neighborhoods that you can't do that. So that would be important, to them and to know, and all of that kind of good stuff. And so the deal breaker would be that you couldn't put a fence up, not that it didn't have a fence to begin with. So it comes down to really, knowing those things, though, and looking at it. But once you start looking at houses, your plans might change. You might say, hey, you might say, I'm going to be totally happy with a house that's only 600 square feet, just like you see modeled out at IKEA, and I think they have some 200 square feet houses there. And but then you get in that 600 square foot house, and you're like, oh, this really isn't going to work for my family and myself. We need a little bit more space. And so, it comes down to really making sure that you're evaluating all of those issues and all of those things. And when you do that, you're going to find that you're going to get the house that you want to have and that you should have. And so here are some factors that you might want to consider when you're looking for the right home. And for most people, it starts with budgets, determining how much they can afford or how much they want to spend. Many people, they can afford more, but they want to be conservative. And so they want to look at the mortgage payments, the taxes, the insurance, the homeowner's fees, and all of those kinds of things to make sure that it's what they want to do. The location, considering a proximity to schools, to works, amenities, public transportation, safeties, the neighborhood vibe, all of those kinds of things. Next comes size and layout. You want to look at the number of vehicles that you want to park and the overall layout and the flow of the house. Now, parking is really an issue in a lot of neighborhoods. I mean, they've gone to one side of the street that you can park on. The size of the driveways definitely makes a big decision for a lot of people. They like to have their friends and relatives over, and they want to make sure that they have the parking spots for them. Recently I had a house on the market and some people were going to buy it, and then they didn't buy it because of the parking situation, because there's no street parking. And so they wanted to know what you had to do during, in order when you had guests over, and there were 2 spots in the garage and 2 spots in the driveway. And then, about a block away, there were like another 5 or 6 spots that you could reserve with the HOA, but other people could reserve them too. So it definitely came down to what people want or were comfortable with and all that kind of good stuff. But in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we'll see you after the break. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Laura Peterson, your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So I was talking about, having your must-haves and your deal breakers and that kind of stuff. Then we were looking at the budget, location, and then the size and layout. And we were talking about the layout of the outside too, and how many cars you can park in the neighborhood or what you need to do in there. Next on our list is the condition of the property, that you might want to move in ready home or something that needs renovations or updates or whatever. And that's obviously going to affect the price and everything as well. So that those things are there. The future needs, how it's going to accommodate your potential changes in your family, such as a growing family or people that are aging in place. If you want to have that downstairs primary bedroom and bathroom, or just even have a downstairs full bath and that kind of stuff at all, it would be something that you will want to look at as well. You want to look at the resale value. Consider the housing's potential resale value if you need to sell it. It usually takes more work to sell a house than a bigger house or smaller than the typical house in the neighborhood. So, when the houses are all the same, it's pretty simple in regards to figuring everything out. And one thing that you want to look at too is that you want to look at, if you're buying new construction, how many other how long is that builder going to be in there in your competition? Because they're definitely, they've got when they're closing it out, they're going to reduce prices and that kind of thing too. I just recently have a house under contract right now that's in a relatively new home community. It was just built in 2020, and the new homes are going for just about the same price as what the seller bought it for, but they're offering an interest rate of 4.99, and that's $20,000 is what it costs to buy down the rate to that level. So the seller didn't want to do that. We actually got a cash offer on the property, so we didn't have to deal with it. But basically, if we would have had somebody that was getting financing, that was something that we would have to be concerned about and look at and all that kind of good stuff. Next thing that you want to look at are the home features, the specific features that you want, such as a backyard, a garage, updated kitchen, energy efficient appliances, etc. And all of those things. And one of the things I learned, I just recently bought a refrigerator. I guess it was about a year ago now, but I thought that today everything was energy efficient appliances, but I found out that that's not exactly true, that the new refrigerators are not all energy efficient because they have to have certain things on them in order to be considered that. And one of the things is that the door automatically closes by itself if you don't close it. So I found that fascinating, that I didn't know that was one of the requirements for an energy efficient refrigerator, but that is one of the things that's required on it. So if that's something that you're looking for, energy efficient, just because they're new appliances doesn't mean that they're going to be energy efficient. So you have to know if that's important as well. And then you also want to make sure that when you're purchasing a home that you do get an inspection. You want to have a professional home inspection before finalizing the purchase to uncover any potential issues with the property. Properties can look good. They all have little things that may be wrong with them and maybe not. Usually the people that are right on top of it, they're going to be able to make sure that you're getting everything of what they thought because they've been on top of it. But I recently was in a property and there was a little stain on the ceiling, and the owner was not in town. They lived in another state. And so, we had inquired about it and that kind of stuff. And we found out is that there was a crack in one of the tiles on the roof. It was a tile roof. And so it was a new stain, a new leak that had come about. Now, the roof is good for 50 years when well maintained, and it had been well maintained, but tile roofs do get occasional cracks in the tiles. And so the one or two tiles may have to be replaced, and that's a lot better than replacing the whole roof. But, they came in there and they did that and all that kind of stuff, but it was something that they were unaware of. And so they were right on top of it as soon as they found out, got it all fixed. And when you did the rest of the inspection, you didn't find anything else, going on with the property. But basically the bottom line is that it always helps to have an inspection, to have somebody walking on the roof and making sure that they can see what kind of condition that it's in, and going into the attic and what the insulation is. I know somebody bought a house and they didn't do an inspection, and then when they moved in, they were doing something in the kitchen, and the kitchen had some remodeling. And they were so surprised when they went up to the attic and they found that there was no insulation in the attic above the kitchen. And that was because they had torn it all out and gotten rid of the lower hanging ceilings in the kitchen and raised them and stuff like that. But when they put it back, they forgot to put the insulation in there. So even new houses, a lot of times, it's like the hot or cold button is, switched around. I sold a new house in the last few months, and basically the air conditioner was not working. And, when you went into it, you thought, hey, it's okay. It was like 90 degrees outside. And so you thought, hey, it's not bad. It's just a really hot day or something. And they didn't have it cooled down as much as they should have. But the homeowner did do a home inspection, and they found out that the air conditioner was not any good. It was a lemon, and so they replaced it before closing or right after closing. But basically the bottom line is that if they hadn't had that inspection, they wouldn't have known that air conditioner wasn't working. And another thing was going on with the dishwasher, that there was something with the pipe that was going out that I don't remember exactly what it was, but there was something that was going on with it that needed attention. And it wasn't a problem with the builder fixing it, but it's much better to find that stuff out before you move in and before you turn your dishwasher on the first time, and then you've got a flood, because that's what happened when they did it. And when you're looking at it, you're not turning on the dishwasher and that kind of thing necessarily. You probably do during the walkthrough, but it's just better to have somebody come in and check all of those things that you might be forgetting. They've got their list, they're certified and ready to rock and roll, and everything's great with that. And so now it's the time for me to talk about our house of the week. And what we've got a property that's just brand new to the market. It is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath townhouse, 1-story in Champions Gate. Beautiful. It does have tile roofs, and everything is just in great shape on this particular unit. Barely been lived in. I think it was built in 2022, maybe 2020, but it's a beautiful unit, and it's got a lot going for it. It has quartz countertop, and actually it doesn't have that 3rd bedroom, but this particular unit does have a door and everything on it, so you could use it as an office, or you could use it as a 3rd bedroom. However, it doesn't have the closet and that kind of thing in it, but it does have everything else. So this is actually in Champions Gate, in the Champions Gate community. So you're living in the area that, you do have your own country club, and then you also can use the Oasis Club. So if you want to be around a lot of people and the people that are on vacation, you can go to the Oasis Club. And then it has the country club that you can go that's a little bit more sedate and laid back. But with the country club comes a restaurant that is only available to the people that live in that part of Champions Gate. And it comes with $75 a month of food and that kind of thing. So, you get to know your neighbors pretty well and all of that kind of stuff, because you see the same people at the restaurant and all of that. But it's a great place, and it's brand new to the market, 1,505 square feet, and well, a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, but you can definitely use it as a third. And so if you're interested, just give us a call and we'll make sure that you can get in there. And I've sold several units over there in that development, and people just love them. It's just one story. You've got a back lanai that's screened in, and then this place you can see the community pool through the other house right over there. So it's like, probably, I don't know, a couple 100 feet or whatever to walk to get to it. So it's pretty awesome. So in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we'll be back with you next week. Have a great one, everybody. Bye-bye.